I suppose I switched tabs and whatever. I was just listening to a podcast, which is the only resource I could find on YouTube that would provide me with a reminder of Heidegger's philosophy. I had read Heidegger's ideas a long time ago, agreed with them, but he's one of those philosophers where you read him and you don't come away with a logical framework, you just come away with a feeling. It's like reading McVeigh's, actually, and in fact this is also topically related to Heidegger's ideas. You just come away with a general feeling instead of having a logic that stays with you. So I was listening to this podcast, and halfway through this, and I'm realizing this is after having gone through other material and so on and so forth. Since a lot of time has gone by, this is the best material there exists to explain what's wrong with modernity.
And what was his philosophy?
See, it's the strangest thing. I suppose it starts by saying he's one of those philosophers who said that he's just going to abandon the idea that all knowledge of first causes are available to us. Now, a lot of philosophy, a lot of rationalist philosophers, they say, well, I have found a better first cause than other philosophers. And from these first causes, I therefore derive a superior philosophy. Then you have others who just say, I have this philosophy, my first causes aren't the best, but the way it's designed, as soon as science or someone else discovers a better first cause than I have, and then implements my logical framework using that first cause, then my philosophy is the best. Heidegger just thought that these guys, and rightly so, were a bunch of autistic wankers. More, concerned with the form of philosophy rather than its function. And so he just starts with what he thinks is the function of philosophy, which is to explain being, which is already distant. See, you have philosophy as the Greeks do it, and as a lot of the most popular philosophers have done it. Just, I'm going to explain truth. Even so-called existentialists will start with a truth first cause. We'll start with a truth framework and then work towards being. Not start with being and then work away from that. So what this does is that Heidegger just says, well, we're just going to abandon the idea of autistically explaining everything. Explanations are worthless. We're going to just start by saying, what really is being. And Heidegger has a brilliant approach to that, which is that he doesn't start as Descartes did with I think, therefore I am. See? Descartes was, because what that does is that it condenses both, I'm going to start with being and first cause in one, of truth. So Descartes said, well, there's something wrong with the only truth approach. So I'm just going to take the being approach and put that with the truth approach. The truth is being, that is my axiom, I start from there. Everybody thought, Descartes, he's brilliant, he's done it. There's really nothing else we can do from here. And as true as that was for that time, they soon found out that whatever they came up with was fucking useless and that nobody really had any use for their philosophy. So Heidegger just says, we're just going to use this this idea that we're going to do away with individuality in the sense of I think, therefore I am, in the sense that there is a subject-object duality. We're just going to take being as you and your environment and everything that has come to make you and that will be you and so on and so forth in one. Very, very Eastern, very pantheistic without the abstraction of God to get to that conclusion. And so he somewhat clumsily, and he was some autistic German guy who, he didn't do it he decided, I'm perfecting form is not a good idea, so he completely fucked up that aspect. It's almost unreadable, his work. He makes up words. It really is infuriating trying to go through his material because it's carelessly written. And it's carelessly written because he has this flaw of character, which is that he's so pissed with the idea of doing a perfect philosophy that he just had to show that his ideas are so good that he could just shit out a really bad book, but still the ideas are good. So
sounds like my kind of philosopher.
Yeah, but not when you're actually trying to study him. That was really why I went through his material, thought it was kind of good, but only left with kind of a feeling rather than having the logic. And I'm still working through the podcast and this material, but it's reminding me of that feeling that I got, which was good. So he does away with truth, does away with God, does away with all these first cause fixations, arguments. And what it is really is that it goes by saying, the simplest way of explaining his approach to it is that we create a subject-object idea, me, the world, and then you explain the world. I figure how the world is working, and knowing how the world works will serve me. So I pick up Descartes and I know how the world works, all of it, and that's useful to me. I go and I pick up one of my favorites is Spinoza. You pick up God made the world like this. I understand the world. Perfect. What fucking blows is that you understand nothing about yourself. And then you had the romanticists and the existentialists and so on and so forth. Everybody knows about Hegel and Nietzsche and all those fucking idiots who did the opposite. I'm just gonna talk about me. Me. Just the individual, nothing else. And so you had these two spectrums. And 18th century, 19th century, these two have fully matured. And the world is saying, well, I'm a rationalist. Well, I'm a romanticist. Well, I'm this, I'm that. And some clumsy attempts at uniting the two could not really be made because there's a subject-object fixation. And what that fixation is the idea of using philosophy, using something, a framework that you've developed to understand the extrinsic world or to understand yourself. But it's not a way of thinking. So Heidegger develops a way of thinking where there's no subject-object dichotomy. You just understand you as being part of the extrinsic, and the extrinsic being a part of you, and it's an interesting approach to the way he does it. Again, we're starting with what's wrong, so it's harder to understand as opposed to what he's doing that others could not do, as opposed to what he's done, and how that feels different from what others have done before him. And the immediate conclusion that he gets to is that we've become these wretched subject-object machines. We've learned to program ourselves, in a sense, to force ourselves ourselves in, you talk about feng shui. Feng shui is when subject and object come together, and that feels natural. There's no me and the world cut off. The extension of the world comes in you extend into the world, that kind of stuff. It's very nice. It's all. And so he just essentially goes through saying that a lot of technology is non-functional. It's completely fucking useless. When seen from the perspective of you and the world being as one person, that a lot of technology is just centered as controlling the extrinsic, or as we're seeing in the current wonderful century, controlling the self. But never having an idea of you and the self merging. And so Heidegger then went on to describe this idea of natural living, but also a progression that doesn't imply that we should go back to swinging from trees. And once he's managed to establish that, and he published his book and did seminars and people shat on him, he then became a Nazi. I don't fucking remember what he did during the war. And then just gardened until he died.
Sounds like, it sounds reasonable. That's what I would do.
Yeah, exactly. No, when you look at how he lived, it was fairly reasonable the way he lived. And he became part of the Nazi Party early. And then by the time the war came around, he didn't agree with a lot of what they did. And he didn't agree with the war. And so, during the war, they kind of he was already old, but they kept him under wraps. They're like, you shut the fuck up, old man. Talking about subject, object being the same, fuck yourself. Yes, so just, nobody liked them. And that's really just the surest indicator that someone has interesting or might just be right is that nobody fucking likes him. Nobody likes him. Nobody agrees with him. At least nobody can agree with them out of self-interest. And that's when you know that the idea is not a tool.
It just sounds better the more I hear about him.
Yeah. It's cruelly clumsy the way I've explained all this, and I've been verbose, but
well, the fact that
I'd have to go through his material and redigest it again and do the step he hasn't done, which is turn it into a logical framework, which is why this podcast and finding scholars who have written about him is very useful, so that you can apply it to your current perspective and world.
It wasn't a bad explanation because I'm meticulously drawing shit on this texture, but I was still following.
Look, it really is fantastic. It's a concise. It's the root cause. Actually, no. Now in retrospect, it's a concise way of understanding what the fuck is wrong with our society since 1750. What went wrong?
What was his name again?
Heidegger. Heidgger.
Hi.
And that's ignoring what went inadvertently wrong. I should correct, not what went intentionally wrong. You can't just say, no, Hollywood isn't eating children. It's really just that we have a subject-object neuroses we need to get rid of. No, it's well-intentioned things like, we're going to give people a lot of entertainment, we're going to give people a lot of easy food, and we're going to create a way for people to interact instantaneously, share their ideas instantaneously. And it never fucking actually solves our problems. It just seems that the modernity sickness just gets worse with every new invention made to try to patch its effects. And this is a perfect explanation as to why. Because we're pulling the subject, the self, and the object, our world, apart. Pulling them apart. And you can use all the technology and science you want, and Descartes and Spinoza, to understand the extrinsic world. And you can use all the fuck do I know? All the Nietzsche and the Hegel and the ego lift and the exercising and the asserting yourself and the being successful to get the self improved. All you've done is buy yourself time, because all these efforts pull the self and the world away from each other. And the more to do that, the worse it is, the idea of making the world and yourself one again, because who the fuck wants to become one? Who wants to perceive the world we live in as a part of ourselves? All we want to know is that we are unique, because that is the only way we can escape the hell that we live in. But when you see the hell you live in within yourself, and you see yourself within the hell that you live in, and you see that in a absolutely inseparable way, you go insane. You go fucking insane because you suddenly realize that you have this mental cancer, that you're a deathly sick patient in a deathly sick situation. You have no solution, because it's a big wide world now that we've created. Big brave new world that can't be healed.
Yeah, I can vouch, and I think it helps justify things that I would want to do. When I think that I'm just a reflection of reality.
It's not just that we're reflections of reality, it's that we are reality.
Oh, we are, but it's just
what
your being is just a reflection of also what exists. I mean, if you are a sufficiently fucked up person and it is not biological or genetic, I think that says a lot about the environment that you've been stuck in.
It's really, if you were to try to stick a malicious intent to it, you could say that 300 years ago, 400 years ago, probably even earlier, but that's when it really kicked into high gear. people were indoctrinated with the notion that there is a subject-object dichotomy in everything they do, that they are not a part of the land, and the land is not a part of them. And that was the real psyop. That was the real tipping point. Not, oh, it was the Jews. It was the Jews. Or, yes, we got too comfortable and natural selection didn't kill enough of my kids. So what can I do? I have to shoot the 5 weakest so that the 2 best can survive and take on my genes. That's not how it works. It's not how it works.
Was it a cause of anything in the recent hundreds of years, or was it the result of just when a human consciousness can't really articulate what's happening to it on an advanced level, combined with just generally being on a slide from birth without any obstacles to make it stop and think? So you just...
You know the answer to that.
You just exact your will upon the world and say, like religion, saying that we are different from animals in the world. That's just...
You know the answer to that already. You know it's both. Because already you're applying that subject-object. Was it an extrinsic cause in the world, in the outside, or was it me, the self, the person going insane in the mind, just letting go? No, it's both. Because there's no difference between the two. It's one and the fucking same. There's no original cause argument. There's no chain, it's not light bouncing off like fiber optics between you and the world. Or at least that's the way Heidegger would see it. But I think most people know this instinctually, and it's really just educated and incentivized out of them. That the world and they are just one person. That there's you don't see people who say, oh, individualism is bad. Who are they? They're collectivists. And that's just, collectivism is and has always been just a higher, more concentrated form of individualism. In a sense that when people want to see themselves as a part of their circumstances and their circumstances a part of them, doing away with this idea that everything's a dichotomy, they don't mean we should all be the same. That has nothing to do with it. Collectivism, in a sense, exploits the instinct of wanting to be unique because you don't want to be a part of your world. So you don't want to see the world as a part of yourself. It's bad because you fucking hate them. So what are you going to do? You're going to affirm yourself as unique, not a part of it. You're going to take what characteristics make you different from the world and value that. And so what do collectivists say? They're going to play on people's instincts and say, this instinct to be unique is what's wrong. So everybody should all be the same, but they should still feel like the world and themselves are not the same thing. It's just that now we're going to create a hive mind on one side of the dichotomy instead of having many unique individuals, each pushing away from a toxic, wretched world. And even examining all of this is just, it's all autism. It's dwelling on the past and on others and so on and so forth. Heidegger would just want you to read his fucking abomination of a book, and retain his wonderful ideas and just apply them to yourself, instead of preaching and so on and so forth. And rightly so.
Instead of trying to change other people, just apply it to yourself.
As in, sure, you can change other people,
Well, I'm just genuinely
but
asking,
only
is that...
once you have become, once you see them as a part of the world that you want to cure, and that's it.
Curing the world, that's kind of... I mean, I'm satisfied with if I could achieve other goals. It is difficult to elaborate on.
You're already on. I could be satisfied.
Well, yeah, can't really, but it is to sate the ego to an extent.
I can, yeah, exactly. I can sate the individual and fuck the world and the extrinsic. It's all right. I can let that go. You can do that, and Heidegger explained that really modernity has been brilliant at satisfying the individual so very thoroughly that you don't even have to care about the world anymore. You don't. That's the ultimate boomer right there. The boomer is so individually satisfied that his world doesn't even, it's not even a part of his mind anymore. Never has been. No, it's, I would say, yes, I like what Heidegger says, and I can identify in that because I want to end reality. I do. Just, yes, okay. Want to improve. I am a part of the world. The world is a part of me. I want to end the world, and I want to end myself with it. So it works perfectly, Heidegger. Works perfectly. Just put everything to the torch. Not because I'm better than it. Not in the hypocritical way of I want to end the world, but I don't want to end myself, or the flip side of I want to end myself, but I don't want to end the world. No, just and I'm sure if I caught Heidegger at the end of his life, he'd agree.
Third impact one.
Sorry?
And you said third impact one.
I wouldn't know. And so, right, on elaborating on what Dag said, yeah, exactly. I can't possibly do this, but I'm motivated to do this, and that's enough. And I would be satisfied if I could get somewhere close. Satisfied if I could get the first domino in a potential series that would end that way. Yes, I'd be satisfied knowing that I've done what I can. But the motivation is still something that is inclusive of all of reality and myself in one. And Heidegger very much approves of that idea of uniting the self and reality in one through purpose. The surest way of inflicting the disease that is modernity on yourself is to only have a motivation that is for yourself, only have a motivation that is for the world. It can be the boomer, only for yourself. Well, the boomer just about fucking everybody these days. Or just the world. Like Nazis. Oh, we're just gonna save the world. We're just gonna do it all for the world. Never, like, the individual doesn't really exist. There's no doing anything for the individual. The individual is a resource. The self is a resource. And I hear normies who often, they come to the conclusion, through trial and error or something, they're like, I want to do something that's good for me, but that's also good for the world, because I feel like that's how it would work. And what happens is they never get there. They never get there. They absolutely never get there.
Yeah, doing things for the world can be a multitude of things. Whether you want it to be a positive change or just a reaction to a perceived injustice.
No, you triple nigger. It's not about what you do for the world. See, that's already, again, reality and you united in purpose, not keeping the dichotomy there. It has to be the same thing that you want to apply to the world has to be applied to yourself. And then that makes sense.
Do what?
I want to end the world, but I also want to end myself. That works.
Yeah.
I want to improve the world, but I also want to improve. Improve is it's not an absolute term like end. We'll call it, we'll take 1933 Heidegger. I want to Nazify the world, and I want to Nazify myself. Oh, that's great. That works. And then Heidegger found out that, Nazis weren't really about Nazifying the world. And then when it was really about Nazifying the world, when they came in power, started a war, it wasn't really about Nazifying the individual. Achieving the ideals that they set.
Be the do to the world what you want to do to yourself. Without
See the world and yourself as one thing, and then you do, and
you are. If it was a dichotomy, like, do to it what you want to do to yourself, but you're the same thing. You are the world, so if you want to kill yourself, you want to kill the world.
Yeah. How would you like to grow, and you are the world? And it makes it very simplistic, because then you can just look at people and say, what do these people want to do to themselves and the world? If they were to go through this exercise, what would they come up with? And then you can judge them on that. Very easy. It's kind of like Kant's universal principle, if it wasn't cuckoldry. Kant's universal principle being, it is ethical if every other human being doing what you're doing would be a good thing. Yeah.
Doing what I'm doing? Well, depends on what we mean by good.
Well, there's just inherent in that statement is the idea of putting yourself as an equal to just about everybody in the world. And that just fucking sucks, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
pretty cucky. But then again, Kant was one of those autistic Germans who wrote a footnote saying niggers and Asians need not apply to be humans. And women. And just about everybody I don't like. Yeah, Kant was a brilliant guy. I was like, yes. As everybody, as every other person in the world would do, except, and even at the time, that would be like 85% of the world's population. Speaking.
I need a picture of the back of someone's head with the skin ripped off. That's an oddly specific thing.
You could still have the head have hair.
No, it's not a human head.
Oh.
I mean, it's got a human texture, but
Fascinating.
the change that I want to make is that I want to trick children who have been left on the computer without supervision to experience what I've experienced so that they can learn to build birdhouses because I want to build birdhouses.
Heidegger would approve, although I think Heidegger's ethics, because see, he does establish this, saying this is how good theories should be made, and then he makes his own theory. I think his theory doesn't agree with doing that to children. He's not a big birdhouse guy.
But in a...
But you can build your own ethics on that. There's no issue.
He would not have comprehended the amount of oversaturation of perspectives that children get simultaneously, where what you are doing that would be amoral on paper to most people is in fact a decimal of the malevolence that they experience from elsewhere.
That is very true. I perfectly agree with you, but really thinking about the next generation already?
I'm quite aware of what the next generation, or people just born even, say, 8 years after me, I'm aware of their influences, and it's itself a motivating factor. They're deprived of a diverse and harsh and of those kinds of influences, because what I and what many people here experienced was wandering on the internet, a vast variety of influences, a lot of emotional experiences, even the mindless animations you would watch. It was had a high variety. It's kind of underground at the time. And then what is there now? They watch let's plays and video essays and story timers, live streamers.
Don't forget Pickle Rick. They
That's
watch a lot
actually
of that.
that's for children over 18.
Just Pickle Rick or all the above. I mean, well, I guess all of the above, but in regards to
No, I completely agree that the infernalists that run the world these days, especially the media, have kids in the palm of their hands and are turning them into vegetables.
yeah, they're like being latched onto electronics does not have to be a bad thing, but it is.
They're being trained to be controlled.
They want the opposite of reality. They are they are exacerbating the unthinking, unperceptive self that is oblivious to the real. How do I what
The
is
child spends most of his time being his lizard brain instead of his actual brain, and so he turns into a lizard.
incapable of higher abstract thinking, of considering other perspectives and other mechanics of reality, yeah. And now
In the sense that
they're just
the mind is a muscle, and what they're being trained to do all their lives is to not use that muscle, or at least use it in a way that is, like you said, doesn't lead to higher abstract thinking.
they're being given a foundation that is not grounded in adversity or reality. They don't even receive art that is produced from adversity or from reality. They only want a constructed false reality.
We're being taught to learn in a static reality. Yes, well, as bad as all of this is, it doesn't eliminate the root causes of all this. I mean, I suppose it's still great to reach an audience of plenty of children and give them what they should be getting. Maybe a little bit stronger than that. Turn them into a little bit more than what the regular kid would be. So I suppose what you're trying to do is the opposite, isn't it?
It's half good intention, half fuck 'em.
As in, it's the other extreme of kids sitting in front of Rick and Morty at 4.
It's the extreme of my childhood of flipping through the TV channels at midnight and you happen upon endless marathons of serial killer stories on a show called The Forensic Files. And you just watch that every night. Then you get on the computer and you wander to a corner of the internet that you're not supposed to be in. You occasionally run into things that it's like someone grabs you by the sides and starts shaking you and screaming at you. I think they're deprived of that experience.
As do I.
It doesn't have to be like what a boomer would say they need. Like, they need to be out mowing lawns and
No, that's
fucking
retarded.
building roofs or something. No, I just think they need to.
It's not dynamic.
They need to. We could be using electronics to simulate them floating through these abstract, constructed realities on kind of an adventure, and there is a chance of it going wrong, and that's just part of the experience. Not necessarily going wrong in like for Bulbapedia or internet child molestation rings. It's just a general feeling of uneasiness, of terror. Of rhetoric that you don't understand being showered upon you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's no real logical framework that I can hold on to, but I understand the idea behind what you're saying. General feeling.
Even if it's not successful, the motivation will mesmerize retards. I mean, just the simple fact that some things will be made from dead people will be enough. And that's only one thing. I'm naturally gravitating to talking about this because this is what I'm doing right now.
Okay. No, I've already understood what the purpose behind that is. I think so, at least. Can't say so with certainty, but I think I do. Seems good. Seems good. And it seems a great combination between what you want, how you want to impact the world, and what fulfills you, which is doing this video game design, and so on and so forth.
It's that special zone where you can do things that the FBI would knock your door down for otherwise on other media.
Well, sure. It's not like they could charge you for it, but I suppose they could. They could say, that Monarch is the intellectual property of the CIA, and so you're getting sued. That's something they could do. They could also say, that you're going against government interests, which is the case. So really, yeah, that's an offense that should be punished by death in all cases. If you go against government interests,
You're
um,
you're conducting a counter MK Ultra, an unsanctioned mass indoctrination.
yes, exactly. It's the opposite of Monarch. What are you doing? A lot of people work very hard on this, and a lot of taxpayer dollars go into it. Why would you undo it? It's almost like damaging public property going against Project Monarch. So you should be shot 3 times in the back of the head and then thrown down a flight of stairs for good measure.
I think you mean you should commit suicide for doing that, so we don't have to investigate
Yes,
and
yes,
prove that we didn't do anything.
of course. But yeah, of course. Well, we're talking about behind closed doors here. This is just theoretical, of course. Just a joke, FBI. Well, the joke is the FBI. And the FBI is a joke. I mean, come on.
I could verify they're kind of a joke.
Well, yeah, yes, because you're a perverted monster, obviously, who thinks the FBI doesn't have your best interests at heart. I mean, they're decent people. Really, when you think about it, the people they send to do the work, the good work of the government, are very much the product of that upbringing you just described.
Yeah, their visit to your doorstep in the middle of the night at 12:30 and barging down your door. That's them showing their compassion for you. It just so happens that you were committing suicide in the process. They were there to check on you, to make sure you wouldn't commit suicide.
They rushed in to try to prevent you from tripping to suicide. But
Yeah, they rushed in there just to make sure that you wouldn't shoot yourself accidentally in the back of the head 20 times.
and shoot your dog too.
Yeah, that dog, it chased after them. They had to do it. It was rabid. You shouldn't have been keeping that rabid dog, dude.
That's exactly what they tell you, word for word.
Because they're right, aren't they?
Yeah, why would they be wrong, dude? What are you, gay?
Your mom gay law.
Shouldn't have owned a
you're-
dog, my dude. Fag. Whatever, fag.
Huh. Oh, that's a drastic difference. Yeah.
Why don't you, like, just ask for help, dude? No one gets dragged to the back room of a mental hospital and injected with mystery drugs and
yeah,
put
yeah,
into a
dude.
bathtub
MK
of
Ultra ended
ice
decades
cubes.
ago. MK Ultra, it's gone, dude. We already ended that. Why would you
It's
suspect
gone, my
us of
dude.
doing it again?
It's gone, my dude. Just get help, fag.
Yeah, what are you, gay? Why are you refusing our help? We're not gonna MK Ultra you again. What are you talking about?
It was only a one-time thing.
Yeah, it was only a 50-time thing, you know? We're done with that. We've moved past that. It was only a 200-time thing. We're done with that. That history is behind us.
You need to man the fuck up already.
Yeah, stop being a little bitch, huh? Just
Quit
get our
crying
help,
about
dude.
getting MK Ultra. Get the fuck over it. Wah. Quit getting mad at video games.
Hello? Yeah, okay. Yeah, really, I've been struggling to decide whether I should develop an absolute system of ethics as of late. So far, I've been operating off of what benefits me is a good thing. Yes, it's a good thing. What doesn't benefit me is a bad thing. Or a more advanced mix, which is, I wouldn't do that. That's unethical. Yes. And I have a feeling that beyond considering what you would do ethical and what you wouldn't do unethical is really where ethics ends and the rest is autism. Just a contrived, useless framework that you try to get yourself to believe in and really just doesn't work. As in, ethics ends at people should do what I do because what I do benefits me. People shouldn't do what I don't do because I don't do what doesn't benefit me. Which really is just a giant reduction to people should be me. Which is wonderful, in a way. I really can empathize with people who do the contrary. But when it comes down to it, the way they enforce their framework is that way. And so, yeah. So the only definite conclusion you can draw from that is that either way you cut it, having a framework for ethics is pointless. It's frivolous. It's a vanity project.
Pretty much. Some of this Aphex Twin music, it's really good for sitting in here, and it would be good for this kind of talking to be shoved down someone's throat when they're exploring something.
I'm sorry. I didn't notice you started talking. What the fuck did you just say? It's. I'm not being dismissive of what you just said. I really just did not notice you started talking.
Zoned out and focused on something else.
Yeah, more or less.
Because that's exactly what I'm doing. I just tune in and out. I tune in just enough to be able to reply sometimes. It's not that I'm
Timing
not
of that was
listening.
perfect, though.
It was nothing. It was saying I'm just listening to Aphex Twin because I like the ambience while I'm working on shit, and I think it matches the environment of this shithole, and it would match when you're exploring a fictional shithole and you're somehow shoving insane ramblings down someone's throat. Whether they're my insane ramblings or someone else's.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And that is the end of the thought. This faggot ripped off the Fallout 1 and 2 soundtrack twice.
What faggot?
Aphex Twin.
Sounds like he needs a visit from the FBI.
He violated copyright law. We're gonna have to send him to prison for 50 years.
Put that baboon nigger behind bars.
You know what a gay, I bet his mom too. Well,
Yes, his mom is most assuredly homosexual.
I bet his mom and dad are both gay.
For each other.
What a couple of bags. They should be put to death by the government so it's illegal. As a progressive-minded individual who advocates no violence, I think that the black man should follow the white man in how police officers seem to go missing when everyone hates them enough. But I believe that they're distracted with this day of rage that they are allowed to have, where they scream and get all their emotions that they wouldn't have even had otherwise if not for the media. That vents all of their beyond human levels of aggression, if not below a below human prerequisite of higher than normal aggression, one might say, but I don't know what I'm saying. I'm stretching an exposed open wound over a texture.
It's nice. It's like childbirth.
It is, except the mother is the computer, and the child is the evolution, a colossal shift from a dead horse society into a birdhouse that we can all build.
Fascinating. Poll has just attracted my attention to an interesting data point. So, the anons on that board like to discuss about marriage and divorce, and it's always so very stale. But one anon has found that a particular measure is quite interesting. It's the divorce to marriage ratio. So in a given year, how many divorces there are for each marriage. And it's something of a momentum indicator, right? Well, when you look it up, you find things like Portugal has a 71 divorce to 1 marriage ratio.
And what meaning does that present?
Meaning that for every single marriage, there's 71 divorces. So it's less, discussing that there are too many divorces. It's just a way to visualize where marriage is becoming something that people forget about. And from what I can tell, what that basically means that in 20 years, nobody will be married. Or next to nobody. That being married is a stupid fucking idea. Even for people who decide to be lifelong mates. Bestest barnest animals. So, you can look at divorce rates and think, oh, that's a lot.
No argument here.
So as your kids that are going to be playing your video game, there's a good chance that, first of all, their parents will not be married. Or that since really they've been born like 10 years ago, there's a solid chance their parents are divorced. And I never really realized to what extent divorce is present
Well, how are other countries compared to Portugal
Now, Portugal is the highest divorce to marriage ratio.
in the world?
So nobody's getting married is really. Then going down the ranking, it's going to be Portugal, Luxembourg, Belgium, Spain, Denmark, Cuba, Finland, France, Czech Republic, the Netherlands, Russia, Estonia, and then we're under 50. So we've gone from 71 to 50 here. Some country that doesn't exist called Gibraltar, or another company that Liechtenstein, Canada, Costa Rica, Sweden, United States, Belarus, Hungary, European Union, Lithuania, Moldova, Ukraine, Kuwait, Switzerland at 42. Yeah, so it seems like 35 to 45 is the world average. What's most interesting is that it can inadvertently be used as some kind of stupidity gauge, in the sense that if there's a very high divorce rate but people are still getting married, then people have to be pretty fucking stupid to do that. The shoot yourself in the foot ratio. And in that sense, I think the winner would probably be... There's Russia, but Russia is not a country that exists. China. Very interesting, China.
What's theirs?
So China has a lot of people getting married, but has an annual divorce rate of 2.8 compared to the United States, which is a 3.2. So almost as many marriages end up in divorce in China as in the United States, but people are getting married at almost twice the frequency.
Why aren't we like China and designate a demographic of people to oppress, lock all the men into re-education camps, and then force the women to marry the most rank and file demographic that you could find?
I think we've already done that, and it's working wonderfully. I'm all for it. Whether it's, vying for the good graces of melanated gentlemen, or just pushing into the arms of the uneducated, most women, since education ends at 25. But, demographics and relationships are such a boring topic. The interesting part is that people are fucking stupid enough to get married, knowing full well that there are a lot of divorces. Most countries, there are a lot of divorces and people don't get married anymore. As can be exemplified by Portugal and Spain, and all these European countries, Luxembourg, France. People just don't get married anymore. They just don't. Completely misread that thing. It's a percentage.
Well, marketing campaigns have turned into social engineering, and it's very profitable for people to get married. And for lawyers to handle divorces.
Is it very... Well, it's not profitable for the people who are getting married. Naturally.
Well, you need... Well, that doesn't... As long as wealth is funneling from them to upward, that keeps the social engineer machine running.
Yeah. There's some interesting statistics, which is that most of the third world doesn't have that many divorces at all. Israel, for instance, has only 1.8% divorce rate. It's very low. It's almost half that of the United States.
What are you trying to say here?
I'm saying Israel's a wonderful country. Really is, and according to most metrics, far superior. Oh, interesting stat. Ireland appears to have next to no divorces, but I suppose it's because it's illegal. Unless you have, extraordinary circumstances. So it is Italy. Very low divorce rates. It's very interesting. So now that I'm really getting a feel for the stats, is a lot of people in the United States are getting married. A lot. It's actually, it's almost African, I'd say. Good Lord.
Seems to be what I see whenever I check my Facebook news feed every once a month.
What matter of sickness are you afflicted with in the United States that you all get married on the same amounts as places like Tonga and Jamaica and Latvia?
I think it's a sickness called being ground zero of globalist consumerism.
Here's the thing, a lot of other places, and it really sticks out as a sore thumb, a lot of other places why is this 1.5, 3.2? Yeah, a lot of other places have very low divorce rates, very low compared to the United States. The United States has both a high divorce rate and a high marriage rate. It's an aberration, really. It's very strange. And of course, you guessed that so is Italy. Italy, strange place. Nobody's getting married, nobody's getting divorced. A prescient people. Colombia. Colombia and the United Arab Emirates are the places where people get married the least. You'd think the UAE, they'd have a lot of wives, but apparently not a lot.
will say that when I sit on voice chat, it keeps my ass glued to the seat. So all I do is start doing this.
I can appreciate the fact that I can open my mouth and say completely retarded things so that I can get them off my mind. It's a refocusing exercise.
I think this is a unique place that I can't really find elsewhere. You can pretty much say any unconventional, semi-reasonable, insane rambling and it will make sense to others. Not that I don't mean at least half of what I say. But still. It's a sharp contrast where other servers, they're too sociopathic or they try too hard to be metaphysical or edgy. But here you just kind of say what's been plaguing you as a result of going insane with knowledge accompanying your isolation. And then the added fascinating mixture of psychedelics into the mix, which is just an amazing thing for an extremely isolated, autistic, over-educated lunatic to consume. I'm referring to many people here, no one in particular.
I'm barely listening to what you have to say, so.
Yeah, it's pretty much what always happens when someone talks for too long.
But I think I got the point.
Yeah, that's you tune out to focus on what you're doing. You just try to get the gist so that you can make the reply.
Construct. All you need is a feeling. Huh. Hmm. Oh, should we just get this working? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, need 20 spaces.
Anything wacky happened with that death cult
No, there's always something, but very little content that can be properly appreciated by outside audiences. In the sense that what you appreciate is the nuances and the grooves and the changes in mood and we've got the death cult sincerely believing in the idea of, well, then again, even that is a concept esoteric to it. The idea is that things have gone from a dynamic state overall, and we are going into a static cycle for the cult, in which things, circumstances will tend to have their most notable changes tied to the material world, in a sense. Really, that all the users exercise their beliefs on their own and in unison is the most exciting parts of it, which is really the whole point of a cult. There's been talk yet again of organizing a crusade. A crusade is someone gets a transport on a continent, drives across the continent, picking up whoever in the death cult has been stupid enough to give their address, and usually end up at someone's place somewhere. A whole lot of violence and drinking and whatnot happens, and usually people's paradigms are completely destroyed. It's very effective at getting people who want the fun of being a cultist without the pain of sincerely believing in ending the world and yourself. Now they get to make that final step somewhat forcibly. By final step, FBI, I don't mean killing themselves. The whole killing yourself thing is very ironic. It's not an actual death cult, as in we don't kill people. People don't kill themselves. I don't know. I'm not sure. Someone almost died last time.
On a drinking spree.
Yeah, some guy gave way too much Xanax to another guy, and then, figured the guy who took too much Xannies was a fucking cunt. So we'll see how close he can get to death before we actually save him. And he deserved it in a sense. See, people can deserve death in a very easy way. Like you and I would say, yeah, they deserve to die. While most people would say, oh, nobody deserves to die.
Well, that's what they say until that's what they're told to say, and then they just live in the moment, and then they will choose to kill someone on the fly.
Entirely, yeah. Without conscience, usually, too.
As if a flick of the wrist, you just end a life. And it doesn't even conflict with your morals or who you are. So taking drugs from random people on the internet who call themselves a death cult seems like a great idea.
No, it's far more advanced than that. The death cult has liaisons to IRL death cults, of which some of the members are part of. There's a big role-playing game element based off of, the fictions of different popular role-playing games on the chans, like Warhammer and Shadowrun. But at least an external IRL death cult based around using tabletop role-playing games to convince people they should kill themselves or end the world first. uses they're still gaming, but it's not that much. The World of Darkness setting, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
Just give me like a sentence on what the setting is. I'll see.
Gothic horror, but also it's kind of like it's been very popular. This reality is actually so they're the ones who participated in the popularizing the idea that vampires are among us.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have that very well. In media, it's been done a very faggy way.
Again, like vampire.
They're known for vampire and werewolf.
It's like
And
Vampire the
like
Masquerade.
Yes. Well, they're the ones who made Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the World of Darkness. Dios mío, what else was I trying to say? Yeah, it's Vampire the Masquerade. They made the werewolf game similarly, but that's not really what interested us. Same studio, they, in the same spirit, game universe of creating games that are a way to exercise a parallel reality to our own. They made a game called Mage the Awakening, which is not about mages. It's some fairly interesting guy, kind of like a McVeigh of the tabletop role playing game. He did a stream on just a while ago where he went insane. He was fired from the studio after making that, and being suspected of being anti-Semitic, which was fun. So the game is, you get a bunch of players around the table, and you make them believe that it's a game about using magical abilities in the actual world. And that gets a lot of normies very, very, very aroused, right? Oh, I'm gonna kill the president with magic, and I'm gonna get my GF in game with magic. Very, very passionate about these kind of things. But it throws a very important element into it, which is that one, you need to role play a frame of reference in which what you are doing is not magic. Great example. I come from some fucking village in the mountains where I sincerely believe that using this particular combination of herbs or whatever will heal someone. Well, the game says, as long as that person sincerely believes it, there is no paradox. Because if a person doesn't believe that mixing a bunch of herbs together and giving it to someone will work, and it does work, and they say, oh, that's magic, there's a paradox. The game says that that's not allowed to happen. So you can't ever actually do magic. It doesn't work. It has to be magic from the perspective of others, sure, but not from your own perspective in-game. And that normies are terrible at role-playing it. And this particular cult in Los Angeles, which one of the person in this online death cult is a part of, have managed to perfect the art of using that simple role-playing tool to break the paradigm of normies. It's a wonderful play on, and of course, it goes far beyond that. But that simple premise makes it very agreeable. There's also that the game has been written, I would call it by erudite people. They didn't create fluff. They really, really wanted to create a mythology of their own. And it's very enjoyable and very applicable. to the point where one of the online death cult's main attributes, you could say, or the main qualities, one of what keeps us most entertained, is to explain mundane things about our lives purely, or explain things as if this was true. So, yes, it's LARPing in the sense that, for instance, instead of, eternally dwelling upon the fact that Jews are evil and so and so, you could just say it's the Infernalists. There's such a thing in what the Infernalists in the game do. They're wonderful people, and this is where the brilliance is written in the writing. Is they don't run around summoning hell and so on and so forth and worshiping. No, they run corporations, and what they do is that they summon demons of different kinds, and they put them in the products that they make.
Okay.
And so you can say, oh, yes, vaccines are giving kids autism, but it's a lot more fun to believe that the Infernalists who run the vaccine making company put an autism demon in the vaccine. Another instance is when you run across, boomers or people who think, which is a lot of people who, hold the neoliberal values and sincerely believe technology will save us all. Well, that's a faction in that thing, the technocracy, which runs the world, at least a lot of it. So the person's a fucking technocrat, and it works. It sincerely works because most people really just live out a role, and that role coincides to a role you could have in that particular setting. And of course, all of this goes beyond the writing because we've developed it ourselves to a large extent.
Sounds like what I ended up writing for my bullshit Hell Dimension. Very interesting.
No, so to parallel it to 40K, 40K is a wonderful setting, but it has severe limitations. And in 40K, magic is the warp. Really. So you call upon the warp, you breach the space between the warp and reality. What the warp is in this game setting is the Umbra. It's called the Umbra because everything that exists casts a shadow. So the game makes a point of saying that it creates its own warp. And it explains the warp better than 40K explains its own warp. Everything creates its own shadow.
Yeah, the warp. Those are genius ideas because
I've heard of this before.
it's See, here's the motivation of a character I've written, and it's basically everything that's happening. It's just a reflection of the real world, but that doesn't mean that what happens in it doesn't matter. And so he has a plan that involves manipulating the said player character so that he can essentially commit a mass genocide and dominate the subconscious to be able to inflict revenge on the Imagineers creating his reality.
So in the game terms, what that character would be doing, and that character would be very much a mage, what he would be doing is to try to change consensus. So reality is created through consensus. Everybody has beliefs in common, or most people, and that creates a consensus, a consensual reality. You change the beliefs of most people, you change consensus. So that's what that character is doing. Of course, he has his own goal of mass genocide and so on and so forth. So he would probably be a very malintentioned character.
It's the idea that they are everything else is occupying space of the human imagination, where feng shui may come from I don't remember that, our biological predetermination to like certain things. So if you were to decrease the amount of things occupying the space, you would your own presence grows larger.
Yes. That's consensus is what you're describing.
Yeah.
You're replacing the person's paradigm in a sense. Yes, it's the game managed to very elegantly make a belief makes reality setting very elegantly, very elegantly. And the elegance I didn't mention is in the symbols that they use, and that's just a very hidden thing. It's not explicitly stated that we are very proud that we created the symbols. No, they use a lot of symbols. And a lot of symbols we found are so appropriate, it's almost disturbing. And of course, you can take it a step further and add the confirmation bias of looking for symbols in places they should be in the real world and saying, well, the game gets it right. You can do that, but most of the time it comes out at you. Symbols and terminology as well. Very good, very good, very good. It's almost like reading Kant's deontology, and he lays out all these wonderful terms, and you think, oh yeah, these terms, I see them in reality every day, and I use them every day to try to express these exact ideas, and it makes sense. So yeah, the cult has that LARPing aspect to it. That very much makes it enjoyable. It's some of the better parts of it. And of course, as soon as someone who hasn't had, like you described, their paradigm first made convalescent to our paradigm and then inverted and turned into our paradigm, the way they get there is through the healthy amount of LARPing that goes on.
So that's your way of getting them to experience what they should learn.
Most of them are smart enough that they understand that if, by conventional means, if they would, I don't know, sit with me in VC for a couple of hours, or if they open themselves up to the chat about themselves, or worse, they went on the road trip that is organized periodically. Yes, they would very much be exposing their very weak normie minds and paradigms to being immediately replaced. So what do they have to do? They have to ignore it. But LARPing, especially this kind of LARPing where it's stuck, there's no material element to it. It's purely a mental exercise. Well, they get into it, it's fun. And before they realize it, they sincerely believe belief makes reality, and that their own paradigm is, oh dear, this paradigm, I got this off of TV. And they realize what they are, and then that sends them tumbling down through the process of self-actualizing in a world without anything to self-actualize with. And then all you have to do is step up, pick up the pieces, and turn them into a good old death cultist.
Has this been successful?
Very successful. Somewhat too much.
Are they
we had
normies, or were they people who were most likely going to be influenced by anything? By like...
It took much longer, and there's a much lower success rate on normies. Yes. Normies who have very comfortable IRL lives, who don't even need you and the cult as a social group to socialize with. Yes, they're very difficult to make them hang through, but I can tell you with full confidence that yes, we got them. We got quite a few of them. The thing is, we didn't get them to then become fully fledged death cultists. We got them through the threshold of having their paradigm become our paradigm. What they do is that they realize that they have this power of going back to their normal life. But of course, their paradigms, they're going to bring that with them. And some of them become fully conscious that, yes, I'd rather just live comfortably and put off the going through the torment of actually trying to affirm this new paradigm I've been given instead.
I actually see where it's coming from, because that sounds like the experience of 4chan and Jamboards in general.
Oh yeah. Well, at least the experience it should be.
You have to submerge them in the unconventional and have fun doing it.
But you have a lot of normies who just show up and say, "Oh, I can't get anything out of this. I'm out."
It happens.
A lot. And unfortunately, since we don't have a lot of recruiting capabilities, a lot of it was from the Chans and IRL. And all that just really dried up. We haven't had a lot of traffic, ever. Not only do we not get a lot of normies per se, but once they do show up, there isn't the initiate crowd that they can mingle with. They're immediately thrown into a chat that is just death cultists talking death cultists and LARPy things. And they, the litmus test is that they have to be comfortable with people talking about ending the world concurrently to their own, agreeable experience that they're having. Like, oh, yes, I'm going to have to share space with these undesirables. We're working on a solution to that. But we've never really been too adamant about expanding the cult. It's just looking forward, we know we need to have a new space, like you're creating a designated space for them to first explore the LARP and have fun with that, and then slowly have their paradigm first weekend, and then have their paradigm replaced. And then once that's done, they can leave the first space, the first little maze that was made for them, and step into the cult, which is really how most cults and religions, cults and sects are run. A sect becomes a religion when it has some kind of institutional power.
And how many, you say it's successful, how many members are we talking? Just like 100?
No, not at all, not 100. Well, let's see. A dozen very active users. 2.5 dozen people who are just, they have lives, essentially. In and out. Some of them are fully fledged with our paradigm and self-professed of our faith. This is being very hyperbolic, and most of them are those threshold people. And then there are a lot of people who have, at some period, stepped in, experienced it, gotten some stage of the process, and then they seem to leave, but they are always in contact with someone. And a lot of them leave 3-4 years, come back.
3 to 4 years.
That's hard to fucking quantify.
Of how many years total?
Well, we're coming on our 2nd year now. Keep in mind, so 2nd year of the online branch of the cult. The physical LARPing, tabletop role-playing branch of the cult is much older. And those two cults haven't really even formally, well, they have had, it's acknowledged that both of them are more or less the same. It's just the two have different leaderships. But yes, there's not a lot of interest of expanding it, really. Or even going through the exercise of converting new members. It's all very exhausting. It's also tiresome. Having, you convert normies and normies and normies. And at some point, you just do it out of the pleasure of remolding someone's mind, rather than any kind of organizational interests. And so I got talking about all this, saying a new road trip, a new crusade is being organized in Europe this time. By Britbong, no less. A tour of Europe. Britbong is completely suicidal and insane, and intends to go all the way to India, but to drop everyone off in Turkey first. No one's to tell really how long it's going to last. Everybody seems to, by then, at least this is next April, so in a year, we'll probably have adequate funds. So there's enough to keep us going for a few months. We may even find more Europeans with cars. So that's more cars, it's a fleet. And if we have a fleet, then we can take a bunch of normies who are also so very disappointed with their own lives that they'd be ready to become homeless, essentially, for 2 to 3 months and wander around Europe. We'll see what comes from that. Because it's the first trip where there's going to be a lot of risk. Someone's going to die somehow. It's a given. Or be abandoned somewhere, or get lost somewhere, and never be heard of again. something like that, and it's the rawest experience too. Because 6 people living out of the same car for 3 months is something.
I mean, I'm sure
And
these
see-
people are acquainted with each other, so it's not just.
Oh yes, of course. Just about anybody else it wouldn't work, but these people are bound by faith. And a faith of desperation, no less. And that's the only reason it would work. No, I say faith and cults, and we don't. It's not even formally acknowledged that way. I'm trying to push that angle because it makes people uncomfortable to think that they're a part of a cult. I like that, and it also creates a platform for abuses, organizational abuses, and I would love that kind of drama to unfold. Really, to the FBI, it just looks like a bunch of kids LARPing, and
I wouldn't count on them just thinking it's something innocent.
no, it's not innocent because there's a whole lot of metaphysical wankery and strong
that's-
assertions about deleting reality.
And they're going to immediately think the worst.
Which is that we're trying to take down the government, which isn't the case.
Or just shoot people in general.
Yeah, that's true.
Hello, FBI. I do not condone shooting of people and toppling the government.
Neither do we. We believe in believing people out of reality. Anything less is, well, it's mundane and it's vulgar. And we leave that for lesser peoples, like you, FBI. It's your job. Yes, all is well in Tinseltown. Nothing to worry about here. Nothing to worry about. Nothing at all. No. Nothing to worry about. 20 spaces, 21. Okay. Yes, there was a very a while back. I sent out an invitation for some of the retards to come into this server to witness something you did, which is indicative of something that happens in the setting. And so we had a laugh. Oh, yeah, he's doing that.
What thing in particular? Which thing?
I'm already parsing through how the fuck I can express this. It's not anything offensive, don't worry. It's not laughing at your
Collecting pictures
expense.
of
No,
rabbits.
I didn't think it was laughing at me. I'm just. Which particular thing was I doing?
So first of all, there was what we're going to refer to in probably a year as the Spider Crisis of 2018.
The nigger spiders.
So no, well, I actually that was somewhat my contribution that I suggested that into existence.
Yeah.
The chat doesn't know about that. The cult doesn't know about that. They'd laugh if they did. So actually, that's right around the time it started. So, in the setting, the animistic peoples of the setting, which includes, for example, werewolves, but it also would include people with paradigms or beliefs that are very much in line with nature. So think people who still live in a rural agricultural setting and have deities that are associated with nature. So these animistic faiths will see the metaphysical trinity around which the setting is based around as being manifested through actual physical forms, animals. So the setting, beliefs make reality. It also has a very Aristotelian approach to it, which is that it uses a necessary elemental base, but not the four humors of medicine, not the earthly elements. No, it says, and I found this hugely interesting and useful because it's right out of Vedic writings and so on and so forth. Everything can be reduced to either a state of creation, transformation, or destruction. And that's
We
the
alchemy
metaphysical
now?
trinity. Exactly. So, creation is dynamism in the setting. Transformation is stasis. So, creation, things changing. Change, creation, life, chaos, the mind, nature associated with dynamism. Transformation, keep in mind, not being change, but being you take two things to make a new one rather than something becoming something else. So one of them, just a metaphysical nitpick. Stasis is things don't change, things coalesce, things calcify, things come together, merge together. It's that kind of spirit. So associated with that would be technology. Associated with that would be the material world. Everything material. Time, energy, physical energy. But also would be things that are applied towards the material world and how it is organized. And so in that sense, information, technology, rules, order, that kind of spirit, stasis. And then you have destruction, which is entropy. So you have dynamism, you have stasis, you have entropy. Entropy as in destruction, but entropy also as in, and this is where you see the blend between the two. So the blend of stasis and entropy would be energy. Because energy is a material, physical thing, an expression of order in the universe, but it is also a destruction in a sense. And so entropy, destruction, reduction of things, but also all things religious, things unseen, phenomenons of emergence. So if dynamism changes, something becoming something different, and stasis is two things becoming one thing. Entropy is something ending to begin something new. So again, out of Vedic writings. The animistic faiths have assigned animals to these things. Entropy is symbolized by the worm. The worm as in the draconic creature of European faith. And the Ouroboros is a fantastic symbol of this. But also the worm as in the earthly worm, to symbolize these things. And it manifests in nature, in the physical world, more nature, as so carrion animals, but also as predators in a sense, as diseases, as the violence of the natural world. Dynamism would be, in a sense, the pure beings of the world, the herbivores, the trees, so vegetation in general, a good example. Stasis is something that is born of both, in this metaphysical trinity, and with it are associated animals, which are both. Man is both the violent predator, bringer of disease, enforcer of his own interests on nature, and a destroyer, but also something natural and a herbivore, and something, an animal that can live concurrently with nature, and so on. And by doing so creates a balance, by being both in harmony with nature and against it. And you think there's not a lot of space for that, but there is. And when you see in nature the elements that work to coalesce to them, that calcify, that unite elements of nature to them, principal among these are insects. Insects are the unseen labor of the natural world. All of nature is dependent on insects to coalesce and unite everything. And it is also, of course, the material aspects, like the earth and the soil, but also rivers, the whole water cycle, how geography plays into creating natural nuances. And so in the animistic faith of this setting, all of these things come together, but also struggle against each other. And entropy, symbolized as the animal that represents it the most, would be the worm. Dynamism. So a lot of the chat disagrees on dynamism, since it is supposed to be pure chaos. So yeah, but because having that symbolized by something is very difficult to find an animal that symbolizes pure chaos, so we're going to skip over that. But you can find expressions of animals that do that, that seemingly embody the best aspects of nature, most creative ones. And
Does
so
it have to be animal?
Well, the idea is that what I'm trying to express here, this is the animistic expression of reality. So no, it does not have to be an animal. My personal belief is that the tree is the best expression of this metaphysical trinity. The tree as being the ultimate plant. And the metaphysical animal associated with stasis is a spider. A spider, in a sense, and it is
They're
clever.
all bipoids.
Sorry?
There's
You're cutting in and out.
Said we're all bipoids.
I'm sure I would agree with that. What the animistic faith in the setting says is that the world is a web of sorts.
And your guys' setting or my setting?
No, my setting.
Alright.
The world of darkness setting, actually. That there is, an invisible web that ties all of the chaotic elements in the destruction together, that binds the universe together, and it goes from, the smallest things as matter itself and the way it's made, it's strings. Matter at its basest elements are quarks, which are just vibrating strings of energy. And at its greatest, the strings that is gravity, and the way it binds stellar elements together. And there's a meme going around that when you look at the great universe, in a picture, it looks like neurons, like the brain. This is a good example of why the setting would say that the world is really a web. The brain is a web. The universe is a web on all levels, it's webs. And so the metaphysical animal for stasis is the spider. That's the animistic belief, symbolism of it. But also the very literal belief that the world is a web. And I'm trying to convey here why the LARPing is so enjoyable, because you can actually go to normies and say, yes, but you see, the reason for that is because everything is a web. And you talk about the neurons and you talk about the universe, and they say, yeah, I guess so.
You're presenting your worldview to them through analogies to make
Exactly.
them discover it on
And
their
then
own.
you take that extra step and say, but if everything is a web, everything can actually be visually interpreted as a web. You interact with the World Wide Web, string theory is mathematics' foremost achievement. Vibrating strings of energy at the basis of matter, and so on and so forth. There's a literal web out there. Is there a literal spider? And that's how we get people to LARP into believing that there's a literal spider that weaves the universe together. The Weaver. Now, we had a very interesting, fun phase of doing that. And doing that to the extent that people were starting, either by, of course, it all being a confirmation bias, noticing that there's a lot of spiders bothering them. Spiders in their rooms fucking around with them. Spiders infesting their cars. Depictions of spiders in everyday life that shouldn't be there. And then there was you. So, of course, there was, I kind of shoehorned spiders into your setting, but you were bothered by spiders at some point. In fact, there's a post of, God damn it, there's a spider dangling in front of me. That was right at the peak of the spider crisis moment. So I linked an invite, and everybody reveled in the terror.
Oh, good. Took you 20 minutes to explain that. But yeah, I get it. I was listening the entire time.
Yeah. And it's a perfect illustration of the communal beliefs of the cult being made reality. And these normies' minds go screaming when you can find evidence. And more evidence. And more evidence. And it lasts for months. Against all odds. But really, it's a very intricate, expansive confirmation bias. Where you have, dozens of people providing evidence from their lives that the spider is manifesting everywhere and bothering them. And of course, there were associated effects. People's pantries were being infested with insects. It must be the spider god.
And I haven't said it yet, but my house is being taken over by spiders, and I've just accepted it.
Is this a recent thing?
Yeah, over the course of the last week or 2 weeks, they've just moved into every room. So I'm just like, fuck it. Don't care.
I included the shoehorn the spiders in your set, and it was humoristic, but also as kind of like a time bomb.
So,
just planting it in there. Yes?
So, what's the relation between the spider and the cat?
You would have the physical part of the cult has both an animistic cult around the bird and the cat. So you're going to have to tell me how your cat cult is.
Well, you see, the cat has your pipe.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can just search it up in the history.
You just created a literal work god?
No, it's... Yeah, well, yes, it's... I can't remember what I had to search up. I guess I'll just look up the cat has your pipe and just go back to the oldest one. Let's see, a year ago. Is it? There's one search result, it will bring up like 20 paragraphs talking about it. Let's see. I found it before, I just don't remember how. Basically, if you see the cat, what is guaranteed to follow is death. If you witness the cat, you're already dead.
Fascinating.
The cat... Man is looking for his... The journey for knowledge is like a man looking for his smoking pipe. But when he looks, before he looks over and sees that his pipe is gone, he is in a state of innocence and ignorance. But after he realizes his pipe is gone, and this is the part of the journey to enlightenment, he's like, my pipe is missing, and this is the end of innocence, and this is maturity, this is adversity.
No, I understand. You've done something like with the comic like Loss, but this is enlightened.
But see, and then he realizes that the cat has his pipe, and these 3 panels represent birth, realization, and death. You are born ignorant, not knowing your pipe is missing, and then you realize the pipe is missing at the peak of your development, and then you see the cat that has your pipe, and then that's the end of you. When you see the cat, you die.
That's a very interesting idea. It's a very interesting idea. So your depiction of entropy is the cat.
The cat
Is entropy.
The cat represents... Where Where the fuck is that search result? I bet if I look up John is chaos. Let's see. If you remove the cat, you obtain immortality. So the cat is a catalyst of death and entropy. There is a alteration of the comic where the cat is missing and the human achieves immortality without the cat, but he also never achieves enlightenment.
In the setting, well, darkness, and this is the constructive point I'm making here. There are spheres of creation. So the physical spheres of creation would be time, because there was time that begins. And then there's matter, because of course matter is what the physical run, and there's energy. That's the static spheres. Time, matter, energy. Well, for entropy, the spheres are correspondence, which you can interpret as being information. There is fate, so there's chance, entropy. And there's prime. Prime being what you describe the cat as being, in a sense, for the man. There's that, it's that becoming in the waiting. And so the cat, as a god of entropy, promises the prime. This whole process is fate, orchestrated, of course, by the cat, by taking the pipe. And the process of enlightenment is the process of acquiring more information as he looks for the pipe. Correspondence.
Realization, knowing that something is amiss, so he is attempting to discover the truth. It's the search for knowledge, initiated by the cat, who is the representation and dealer of death.
Prime is death, creation, and transcendence in one. It's what people would say, oh, that's God. But no, it's just specific, in a sense. Could you post the actual comic so that I could overlay my autistic terms to calcify your paradigm with mine?
Do I have that? I'll just look it up.
Pipe.jpg. I do remember you guys posting that around and thinking, yes, I can sense there's something there, but what the fuck have they found in this comic?
It is.
You see, we found the pipe.
Yes, he found the pipe. That was.
He found the pipe within the pipe strip. In this comic, you have birth, life, death, condensed into 3 panels.
Fate. The first panel was the man and his circumstances.
He's ignorant. He doesn't. It's
And
innocence.
of course, exactly. It's innocence, but it's also innocence is a lack. There is no pipe. And so what's not said is that in the first panel, he realizes he doesn't have his pipe. And that's why he wiggles his hands right on the side, right there. He's like, oh, something's missing.
He's not in full realization, though. He's he is in the motion of reaching for the pipe, but yet
He's coming to terms
he
with
has
his
not yet
circumstances.
realized it. He has not yet realized the pipe is gone. This is pure innocence. This is the beginning of life.
The second panel is correspondence. He looks for information. Correspondence is also a sphere that concerns the spatial notions and relative notions. Where could my pipe be? That's a correspondence thing. You want information and you want location. And you're also creating a relative link, which is that you understand now that the pipe has a proper place, which is supposed to be, but it is not there. And so that relative note, sure, okay, that's correspondence. And then prime. Prime is, like you said, death. It is the realization. But it's not just death, it's death and rebirth.
That's what one scholar brought up, is that if you connect the beginning of the panel to the end of the comic, you get a cycle. You get almost it's a never-ending cycle of life and death. It's the generations of humans. This is only one interpretation. There's many more. Like there could be said that the cat represents sacrifice, because the cat is smoking tobacco, which is harmful to cats, and despite this fact, he continues to smoke, throwing caution to the wind as a way to say, if I must die, then so be it. That's another interpretation of the comic.
So in a sense, the cat could be a hallucination, a projection of the man's subconscious, where he sees this hallucinatory cat to understand his own fate through the cat smoking the pipe.
It could be a representation of the way the mind's eye tries to understand where his pipe could be. The cat may not even exist. It's man's capability to rationalize reality.
And in doing so, rationalizing reality, he sees cats where there aren't any.
You begin to see cats where there may not be cats. You begin to see answers and revelations. The cat doesn't only represent death, he represents... I would say the pipe represents enlightenment.
Emergence.
The cat has it.
What does emergence mean to you as a word?
Does this have to do with the cat? Like
Of course. You say it's enlightenment. Enlightenment is really the sum of the three panels. It's a process enlightenment. But the phenomenon is not enlightenment. It's emergence. So what does emergence mean to you?
I would have to say so it's a process. So we are witnessing a man who has to undergo the struggle, his comfort zone being shaken and annihilated by the lack of the pipe, having to search for it, and the cat emerges in his mind as that enlightenment, So the cat emerges. Does this tie into emergent phenomenon?
Yes, exactly. This is exactly my point. Just as atoms make molecules that make proteins that make people that make stupid goddamn comics,
Which is not this.
which is not this. It's a brilliant comic.
It's the only comic that
It's
matters.
the only comic. This is emergent. This is an emergent phenomenon. The pipe is the emergent phenomenon, or rather, the cat. The pipe leads. The cat emerges. And this strip, of course, is illustrative of the metaphysical trinity, being the first panel, chaos, disorder, change, but also a creation, in a sense, of a need. The second is a need for control, a need for order, a gathering of oneself and the information around oneself. Now, where could my pipe be? And he looks around. And it's the introduction of a material element. He wants to look at the pipe. Where? And then finally, there is the realization and the pain. The realization and the emergent phenomenon as he discovers that the cat has the pipe. Dynamism, stasis, entropy.
Precisely, that's the dominating theory on what Jim Davis meant by making this comic. It is the most profound depiction of the human condition that has possibly ever been made. It's brevity. Like, brevity is the soul of wit, and we are still peeling away the layers of meaning, which may never end. The man is order, the cat is chaos. He is attempting to bring order to chaos. And chaos, its intention was to guide order to enlightenment, to help understand chaos. Chaos
Do you not
works.
see the web? The weaver behind all of this? What is the real focal point around which all of this is orchestrated? What is the element that unites these two characters? It's the pipe. The pipe is order. The pipe is stasis. The pipe is the material element. The man doesn't order everything. The pipe controls the man and not the other way around. The pipe is stasis. The man is chaos. He has to change. The man is chaos. He is, with every frame, something different. And in a constant state of confusion. And the cat as ever is entropy. Man dynamism into, well, looks for, projected into stasis, the pipe, into the mouth of entropy, the cat.
That is another theory I haven't considered yet.
Another convenient illustration. People, land, so people dynamism, land stasis, war entropy. That's history. Or should I just say conflict? War is a very recent notion. It's a very interesting comic, The Cat. It really is.
There's another depiction of this comic, and it's roughly the same idea. I strongly believe that it was a depiction of the events of this comic. I've posted it before, and I will post it again. It means helping shine light on the meaning of this. I'm just stalling for time as I flip through my gigantic folder of paintings.
Sure, don't brag.
I don't know if I should brag about the fact that I can't organize things.
No, chaos is the essence of life.
That my folders of saved images is a lot more disorganized than yours.
I strongly believe that this painting is an idealization of this comic. It's the story elements being retold.
You see?
The specter, see, the entire painting is orange like the cat, and the specter is the cat himself, and man is pleading to this godlike figure. They carry torches, and they ask for enlightenment. They ask for the answer, the pipe, and the being has the pipe. He has the answers.
Well, don't you see the
I would
events
believe
of this?
another
Look at the man.
version of it.
Look at the man, what he's doing on that ledge. He's covering his eyes from the sun. Look at the other men, they're carrying torches. They must have been in darkness just a moment ago. The cat obviously brought the light that is blinding the first man and confusing the other three who are carrying torches and were previously in darkness. The pipe is the sun, it is the light.
See, it is a true retelling of the story of the comic strip, because we are also able to interpret similar meanings, almost identical meanings to the pipe strip.
Identical meanings. 4 men go to a forbidden place for enlightenment. They are seeking enlightenment. Look at them. They're all dressed up as monks and they have their torches. They're wandering through the night on a strange ledge.
Those 4 men represent the one John.
They come to the ledge and they say, "Where is enlightenment?" And the cat reveals enlightenment, the sun, right behind him. And the first man is blinded, and the other 3 are standing there with torches, feeling dumb. But they couldn't see the cat in the darkness. Like in the comic, the pipe and the darkness are revealed, and the cat and the light are revealed at the same time through each other. That's emergent phenomenon. And the men are enlightened.
See, this painting tying in with the comic just further details that the cat is a representation of something intimidating, like death itself. They're going to death to ask for the answer. Death is the wielder of the pipe.
They're going to their maker, in a sense. The safekeeper of enlightenment.
They return to their maker to unmake them to begin the next cycle of innocence, realization, and then death.
If this was to be made in a 3-step comic, it would go the following. First step, innocence, dynamism. The 4 men would be standing around saying, "Where is the sun? I want the sun." The second panel would be the 4 men with lit torches walking through the night to a ledge, looking for the sun, enlightenment. And that would be the last panel.
That's the beauty of this painting, though, is that you see the comic strip through this. I would say that it could represent at least the last 2 panels. Definitely the last one, but this is them offering themselves and pleading with entropy for the pipe. They're like, "Where is my pipe? Where is our pipe?" And he has it. That's what the man is asking with his arms out. He's asking, "Where is our pipe? Where could our pipe be?"
I don't think so. No. I sincerely think the first man isn't pleading. The first man is shielding his eyes from the bright light that was just shown on him.
I think I see where you're coming from on that, but I think it could be the angle, or it's the artist's genius to represent 2 poses at once that mean totally different things.
While I would agree with that perspective, I'll say the following. Men carry torches. They walk to the ledge in darkness. And the being of Prime revealed itself by creating the sun behind it, blinding the men with its light and also with its sudden presence. Cat.
This too is another depiction of the pipe strip. Again, the color orange and felines. This is the third panel of the pipe strip. You're facing the cat.
It seems to me that the roles are reversed. That the man is the cat, and that the cat are the lions. And that the man is the lions. The man is the lions, the cat is the man. Yes, I understand the brilliance of this comic now.
The man is his own entropy and his own chaos. The man was keeping the pipe from himself.
It shows that it transcends the limitations of cat and man by reversing the roles in this one. The roles are reversed. You see the dark pits in the background. And there is the light. The lions, which are the man, were in the dark pits of innocence, way at the back. Curious to come into the light. They came towards the light. This is, where is my pipe? They're saying, where is the light, as they were in those dark pits we see in the back of the picture. And they walk forward and discover in the light the man. And realize that the reason they were in stone pits in darkness in the first place is because man built them around them. And when man is revealed by the light they have sought after, there is the greater realization, not just of the pipe, which is the light, but also of the nature of their being, the man, which is the cat.
There is I am seeing the pipe strip in the next three pictures.
I don't know what piece of media this references to.
It's a reference to the movie Beyond the Black Rainbow.
I have not seen that movie.
I do see it in these pictures. It's... You have... In the second picture, I can definitely see John in the pipe strip in his search for meaning of where the pipe could be.
Yes, now it comes together.
Whatever movie this is, this could be a movie based on the pipe strip. I wouldn't rule that out.
And it's definitely based on the pipe strip.
I understand the hallway. And I understand the revelation at the end, entropy.
This is an accurate depiction of seeing the cat and the aftermath of seeing the cat. Also, inside, in the middle of the movie, happens right after those three images detailing the events of forcing the cat onto someone who was not prepared and who was not searching for their pipe.
This is very interesting.
But since they were not searching for their pipe, they were not fully destroyed by the cat. He was able to survive, but now he searches for the cat even further. Yeah.
So those that discover the cat without having searched for their pipe will forever crave the pipe.
Yes.
This is very interesting because you could say that many enlightened peoples were given enlightenment without asking for it. They were given the pipe without asking for it, and those are usually the people who then go on to seek further enlightenment, who transgress nature and search for forbidden knowledge.
It is interesting that you can survive an encounter with the cat if you were not looking for it intentionally.
But survival is not a good thing.
You're only buying yourself time by not searching for the cat and allowing it to annihilate you.
You crave death afterwards.
After realization, you crave death, and that's we unknowingly search for the cat.
This piece of information is very important to my death cult. We'll be reviewing this.
On one hand, you have the cat and the weaver.
Remember, the pipe is the weaver. The web in all of this. The element around which everything gravitated is the pipe. The pipe was the instrument, the transformation, the tool, the uniter. This is a nice movie, I like it. This is what you want your video game to be like. It starts off innocent. A smiling man is giving a drop. Sees idyllic, interesting visions, and then next moment, he's in hell.
Oh, absolutely. That's precisely the model to follow.
You are about to embark on a great journey. Are you
I'm
ready,
about to unveil the
my
next
friend?
model I've been working on this entire time.
I am ready.
I don't think I'll have it rigged within the next hour, though.
Good luck.
Thank you. I see it now. You see, when the man has met the cat in this particular movie, he's meant to stay in the black dot, which is death. But instead he crawls out and brings the black dot with him, transgressing the natural order of a black dot, a white space. Now he spreads the black to the white space. He becomes the cat.
Bring home the mother load, Barry.
And fetishizes the pipe. Yes, this movie is revelatory. He fetishizes and craves the pipe. Which leads us to understand that really why the cat wants the pipe and has the pipe in the first place. The cat is a man that has become the cat. And now seizes the pipe, knowing that another man will come, looking for his pipe. Become the cat in turn, and crave the pipe. Oh, and you were mentioning the third impact earlier.
Yeah.
Evangelion itself is a depiction of man, pipe, and cat. Think about it.
I guess so. Lilith is the pipe. Adam is the cat, and man is the man. And in searching for enlightenment, the cat is brought to the pipe, and the third panel happens. Hence, third impact. It's threes.
Reality moves in threes. And so, what the cat tells us about ourselves is that while all men crave enlightenment, what they want is enlightenment, the pipe. But what they need and what they get is the cat, death. And that really the ultimate form of enlightenment is death.
And with the oncoming death comes enlightenment. Through enlightenment comes death.
Which is why those that are forced into searching for the pipe, rather than wanting to, as is Shinji, when they encounter death, they encounter death while not having genuinely looked for enlightenment. And so, come out of the experience with the pipe, but without the cat, because they don't die. They don't find death. They find the pipe.
The new age of enlightenment.
So the natural process is to look for enlightenment and find death. And the unnatural contrived process is to look for the pipe. But since you never needed it in the first place, you will not be angry at the cat. You see, in the third panel, he is angry at his cat. He has that realization that the cat had the pipe all along, and it is that realization that is death. Someone who has been forced to look for the pipe will not have that frustration, that finds its actualization in being angry at the cat, and so they never really do see the cat. They only see the pipe in a myopic journey for it. And once they have the pipe, once they reach enlightenment without death, then they are in a sense undead because they realize now that they have become the cat. A man sends a man to look for his pipe. Man number 2 finds the pipe. And when man number 1 will look around for his pipe, he will see man number 2 with the pipe and he will scream, "Man number 2," and that will be his enlightenment. You become the cat if you do not perceive the cat. Which is why Eisenhower, upon contemplating the fact that he had discovered death, or rather, that he had discovered the pipe, the nuclear bomb, without searching for it, he realized that he had become the cat, destroyer of worlds.
This ties into the Kalyuza Eisenhower video where it's an existentialist just going on and on for 20 minutes about how people need to embrace death and through that achieve enlightenment. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Oh man. I could get yet another excuse to post it again.
Most extraordinary man.
I should ask, is audio an important part of this video?
It's a guy talking, and then I put visuals on it.
Oh, you put... These are interesting visuals. Well, then I'll listen to it later. Presumably tomorrow.
This is, let's see, this demonstrates whenever I get visions in my head and then try to battle with shitty software to try to make it real.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
there comes a point where you can give it up, firstly, in the way in which... because once you are playing the game on that level, you tend to play the mistrust on it.
And then all you get is this. It's just 20 minutes of an album that I had where it was a existentialist philosopher who tries to genuinely understand what he is and what the world means, or not what it means, but what it really is. And then this is his talk on how he wants to put people in a state of mind as if they're actually dying, because that teaches them something. Not that live like you're dying, you only live once, but it's not something that normies can really understand. It's
1958, I was in Zurich.
He wants to recreate the process
The most extraordinary man.
of finding the cat unwillingly.
precisely of the cat. He wants.
German diplomat
You can't
who had studied.
look at the cat and survive.
And when he came
So
back,
this is to simulate
he opened a meditation school.
an encounter with the cat to take some of the enlightenment without having to face the cat.
I tell you what, a lot of my work has to do with people
Because facing the cat
crises.
means that you will cease to exist.
And he said, you know, we all know that when a person's in an absolutely extreme situation and they accept it, there is a possibility of a natural satori. And that's what I mean when I was explaining that when one gets to an extreme, that is to say, to the point where you realize that there is nothing you can do about life, nothing you could not do about life, then you're the mosquito biting the iron bull. Well, so in the same way he said, look, you heard...
This character's coming out just like I envisioned.
You knew it was right above you and headed straight at you and that you were finished. And you accepted it. And
Almost entirely a ripoff of another
there was a
character.
strange feeling that everything is absolutely clear. You suddenly see that there isn't a grain of dust in the whole
And in a
place.
sense, it is the outcome of that process is madness,
Absolutely, totally, what it's all about. You can't say what it is.
because you come
But
in,
he said in so many cases the bomb was a dud, and they lived to tell the tale.
go through the stages, and then you are back at the first
Or he
stage,
said you were in a
innocence.
concentration camp. You've been there so long,
But what is surviving,
you gave
or at
up
least
all
having
hope
an
of
experience
never getting out. You were just going
of
through
finding the pipe and then going back to innocence? That's madness.
degrading grind.
Enlightened innocence is
Nobody
madness.
paid the slightest attention as an individual. You knew you would never get it, and you accepted it. And suddenly, something
If we were to refer to the works of the pipe strip, it gives me the impression that you cannot have innocence and enlightenment.
you had lost your family. You didn't know whether they even existed. You were miles from your home.
You need to begin the slide into death and the terror of it.
Your very identity.
But regardless, after the third,
Absolutely not.
if you somehow survive the third
And suddenly, you were as light as a feather.
window of the strip,
Now he said,
then you're back to the first, innocence.
talk about them to their families and friends, and they say, oh,
But what innocence is that?
under terrific pressure, and you probably had some hallucination, you know? Well, he said, I am showing those people that
Exactly. What is innocence and enlightenment together?
See,
How can they coexist?
so you see, this is always the opposite.
first there is the man that realizes he does not have his pipe, innocence.
Into death with us
Second, he looks for his pipe,
and have some
realization.
you if necessary to give
And then
before you
he finds the cat, destruction. But if you somehow do not see the cat but find the pipe,
this extraordinary thing.
that's the distinction. The man finds the cat. He doesn't find the pipe, he finds the cat. He screams cat
I wouldn't have missed that opportunity.
and dies. But if you find the pipe,
We die. The reason we die is
then you return
to understand
to the first strip and you realize you're missing the cat.
because then we come to a situation that the ego can't deal with.
The second strip is where is the cat?
Then our naturally what all this universe is for.
And the third is finding the cat. And this is the true enlightened way, in a sense. The ultimate goal is to find the cat no matter what. It's just that the man in the normal strip, in the natural strip, looks for his pipe, finds the cat. This is not enlightened. He finds the cat by chance. Finds the cat because the cat took the pipe so that the man may find him. But in the enlightened strip, one looks for the cat actively, knowing one's own end. One looks for death, knowing that death is one's destiny, and upon finally finding the cat, dies.
I agree with all those statements.
And you see, the Trinity is here in a hidden way. You can look for the pipe and find the cat, as did the man. You can look for the pipe and then find the pipe, which is the first stage of enlightenment. And then you can look for the cat and find the cat, which is the second stage of enlightenment. Dynamism, stasis, entropy. Dynamism, the chaos of looking for a pipe, finding the cat. Stasis, I look for the pipe, I find the pipe. Order. Third, destruction, I look for death and I find death. And on that, I have to go to sleep because I have 4 hours and 49 minutes to sleep.
I mean, this has been productive because I've just been sitting here texturing, which is the thing I hate doing the most.
It's given me ideas. I'll be using that comic strip as a focus. Try to hypnotize people.
I'm hypnotized by the enlightenment that it wields, and now my death will surely follow. And I believe that in the future, a terrorist movement is going to be formed where they send people to see the cat.
So, in this movement that you're starting, there are birdhouse builders, kitchen preachers, and the cat.
We will make them see the cat. They will all see the cat soon enough.
I can't help but agree. Good night.
Now I have to get ready for work.